Hello everybody and welcome to DenziNow. It's Mike here from Electric City Sentai DenziCaster, and this one is late. Tell me about it, folks. We are going to take a look at the first 4 episodes today of Lupinranger versus Patranger, or Patranger, depending on where you're looking at it. But before we jump into this, and you're going to see some episodes in real rapid succession because I'm behind on this one, folks. I want to let you guys know, and I want to thank you guys because we now have 125 subscribers, which means that it's time to do a giveaway. Now, we announced this on the last episode of DenziCaster, went up last week. So, we're going to be giving away, at the beginning of June, this, which is Series 1, Volume 1 of Ultraman on DVD. This is Region 1. I didn't mention that in the first, when we announced everything. And this is the Mill Creek, I think. This is the Mill Creek Entertainment release. This is actually from my personal DVD collection, but someone donated to us the entire first season of Ultraman on DVD. So we're going to give this one away. Instead of selling it or whatnot, we're going to give it away to one of you guys as a thank you. So, if you want to be in the running for this, what we need you to do is go back to our Johnny Sacco episode. This is the episode that went up last week of DenziCaster, where we covered Johnny Sacco episodes 19 and 20. Josh and myself, Josh from Chopsaki Cinema. Go back, watch that video, and talk to us in the comments. At the end of the video, I tell you what we're looking for and how you can enter and win this. So go back and check out that video, and maybe this comes headed your way. So, in the meantime, let's talk about the 42nd entry in the Super Sentai series. Now, folks, I've been a fan of Tokusatsu for a very long time. I've been doing this channel now for well over a year, talking about various Tokusatsu, all kinds of stuff, right? Well, my entry into Tokusatsu proper, not counting Power Rangers, and Power Rangers certainly is Tokusatsu, it's American Toku, but my entry into Tokusatsu proper came through Super Sentai, specifically Deca Ranger, which I did a Denzi Blitz of way back when. Go back in the archives and check it out. But this, the 42nd Super Sentai, I've always been, for years I was a bigger Super Sentai fan than Kamen Rider or any other Toku series. Now I'm probably more a bigger Kamen Rider fan than Super Sentai guy, but there's nothing quite like a good Super Sentai series, and let's find out if that's what this is going to be or not. So, since this is episode 1 of our look at Lupinranger versus Patranger, which is how we're going to refer to it, or you may just hear me refer to it as Lupin versus Pat, which is sort of the shorthand name for it at the moment, because the full name of the series is enormously long. It is Kaito Sentai Lupinranger versus Keisatsu Sentai Patranger, or basically Thief Sentai Lupinranger versus Police Sentai Patrol Ranger. So a couple of quick notes, things that are actually very unique about this series. This is the first show, the first Super Sentai series. Some people in some places have noted that it's the first Super Sentai ever to have done this, and that's not 100% accurate. But this is the first Super Sentai series with 2 different teams in the title, and 2 distinct Sentai. It is not the first Super Sentai show with 2 different teams in the same show, 2 different hero teams. That's been done before. That was done in what we called Ninja Storm, but in Japan it was Hurricaneger. The Hurricanegers specifically were only red, blue, and yellow. Navy and Crimson, or Kabuto and Kuwaga Riger, were the Go Riger, and they were a second team. So, while they're all sort of, I guess, part of the greater whole, specifically it was 2 different teams. So this is only the second time this has ever happened in the history of Super Sentai. It is the 42nd series. This is, let's see here, in spite of having two different teams, it is the first Sentai to have red, blue, green, yellow, pink as the primary Ranger colors. It's the first time this has happened since Tokyuger, so it's been a few years. They note here, and I'm getting some of this from various sources online, some places are noting that this is the second police-themed Super Sentai show, second to Deca Ranger. Realistically, Deca Ranger was the second one. Time Force was the first police-themed Super Sentai that I can think of. They were time police, but they were still police. So, Time Ranger, then Deca Ranger, and now this one, Patranger, would make it the third. And if you backtrack even further, there have been plenty of government or special agent, but not really police-themed Sentai. So really, the first one to have that police theme was probably Time Ranger. One thing that they also know is the first non-anniversary Sentai to have a treasure hunting theme. Because that's what the Lupinrangers are. Even though they're thieves, they're hunting down the Lupin collection. But in this case, they are the third team to have that theme, Treasure Hunter. Bokanger was the first, and Bokanger was the 30th anniversary of Super Sentai. And then the Pirates of Gokaiger were the second. So there you have it. So there is that. Also, worth throwing in here, looking at some of the other stuff, this is the first season since Sun Vulcan, years and years and years ago, from 1981, so 37 years ago. And I know that only because I was born in 1981. That's how I can do that math real easy. Where the team name is not announced in the title. Like if you watch the opening credits, they don't shout out their team name. But there's some one very interesting thing in here that they do note, and I find this one to be funny. This is being counted as the first Super Sentai ever, specifically the Patrangers, to not have red, blue, and yellow all be members of the core team from the start. Which is pretty interesting. It's the first, well, it's not the first time there's never, because there have been shows that didn't have a yellow. But there's always been a red and there's always been a blue. And this team doesn't have Blue Ranger. It's red, green, pink. And it's the first time for a three-man team, or a three-person team in this case, to not be red, yellow, blue. And hit the primary colors. So there's that. So lots of fairly interesting stuff. Also, it's the first time there have ever actually been two proper reds in the same series. Anyone that wants to argue that Time Fire was a red warrior, or that the Quantum Ranger is a red ranger, no matter what Forever Red tells you, you're wrong. They were the sixth Rangers of their respective series. So, we've got the first four here today. First four episodes that we have watched. So, let's talk and see what we got here as I pull up some handy dandy notes. So, episode 1 is the troublemaking Phantom Thieves, which sets up the premise of our series. And the premise of our series is essentially that there is a collection of artifacts that were stolen by the gentleman thief Arsène Lupin 100 years ago. And they are now missing. So, at the behest of Lupin's descendant, or specifically Lupin's descendant's manservant, or butler, these three individuals have become the Phantom Thieves known as Lupinranger. They use parts of the Lupin collection in order to transform into these superpowered forms that allow them to fight the Gangler, which are our big bad guys for the season. And the Gangler are basically a monstrous version of the Corleone family from Godfather. That's basically what it is. They're the Mafia. Not the first time that the Mafia has shown up in a Super Sentai show. Don't believe me? Go back and check out Time Ranger. But the Lupin collection, if all assembled in one place, theoretically is like, basically it's the Dragon Balls. They can grant any one wish. including reviving the dead, apparently. They would have the power to create or destroy, all the way, it could blow up the world, theoretically. And right now, the elements of the Lupin collection, each of which have their own superpowers, are housed in the members of the Ganglers, in these different gangsters. Literally, they all have a safe embedded in them that holds a piece of the Lupin collection that grants them the bulk of their power. So, the Lupinrangers in episode 1, we see that they are out to hunt down the Lupin collection and effectively put it back where it belongs. If you can say it belongs in the hands of the guy that stole it in the first place. Then you have the Patrangers, which they are a special task force of the Global Police Force. The GSPO, which I believe is Global Special Police Organization. But as part of the Global Police, they are tasked as the tactical unit with hunting down and stopping the Gangler, which in turn also puts them in direct opposition to the Lupinrangers, because the Lupinrangers have to retrieve the element of the Lupin collection housed inside each of these Gangler monsters before they destroy them. If they destroy the monster first, then that element of the Lupin collection is gone. And they have failed in their mission. Whereas the flip side of it is that the Patrangers just want to bring down the bad guys. And to the Patrangers, the Lupinrangers are bad guys too, because they're criminals. They're thieves. At the end of episode 1, we do discover that somehow part of the Lupin collection has fallen into the hands of the Patrangers as well. Specifically the VS Changers. I do like it, pretty slick that they're calling them the VS Changers, when very obviously that is standing for versus Lupin versus Pat. So there you go. But you have that artifact also winding up in the hands of the Patrangers, who use it to transform into their heroic forms, which are similar yet different than the Lupinranger designs. The designs actually have far more in common than you might think to just look at them. But it's a very interesting setup for the series. And that's basically what episode 1 is it's that setup and basic premise. Episode 2, which is, as I jump through here, let's see here. Number 2 is... Oh, it's not giving me the right stuff. Anyway, episode 2, International Police Chase After Them. We get to see the Patrangers in all their glory, including their special final attack. And in this episode, we do have sort of the three-way fight between the Gangler, the Patrangers, and the Lupinrangers to carry over from episode 1. But we also wind up basically getting the origins of everyone over the course of the next couple episodes. At least everyone from the Lupinranger team. We get their motivation. Episode 3 is called Take Them Back No Matter What. And then we wind up with episode 4, Unacceptable Relationship. Let's go through some basics of what we see in these episodes and chit-chat about that. And if you want the full synopses of the episodes, that's what Wikipedia is for. So, the Lupinrangers, who are Lupin, Red, Blue, and Yellow, and until I learn the actual individual character names, that's how I will refer to them. Over the course of these episodes, we learned their motivation for tracking down the Lupin collection and how they became the Lupinrangers. So we do have their origin story, which is effectively a ice-themed Gangler froze their friends or their fiancés or their significant others or what have you, or their family. I believe for Lupin Red it's his brother, for Lupin Blue I think it's his fiancée, and then for Lupin Yellow it's one of her friends, her close friends. But in each of their cases, freezes them and then destroys them, like the ice shatters. And then the butler comes to them and says, you know, this is what these bad guys are. Here are the VS changers. You can transform. You can stop them. And if you can recover the Lupin collection for my master, the descendant of the great gentleman thief Arsène Lupin, then you will be granted any one wish, including restoring your family and friends. So we get that setup and we get that motivation and we get the promise that they've made to each other that no matter what, no matter the cost, including should one of them fall, they will carry on with this mission and get the job done. That's what they are here to do. Period. End of story. So that's the Lupinranger setup. For the Patrangers, we haven't really delved into their origins quite as quickly. We know that they are all officers in the global police. For the Patrangers, you have essentially you have Ichigo, Nigo, and Sango. So red, green, pink, respectively. I will refer to them just as probably as Patrol Red, Green, and Pink, or by their numbers 1, 2, and 3. So with this team, our red Patranger Ichigo is basically the hot-blooded, hot-tempered, for justice cop to whom the law is the law, bring down the bad guys, right every wrong, hot-blooded cop. And that's the archetype we get out of him. Green, Nigo, number 2, is the rookie of the team. He is the rookie cop, the naive youngster. And then, in something that I find actually pretty refreshing, Pink, Sango, Patrol Ranger 3, she is basically she's the badass. She is the cool, calm, collected cop. You almost get the vibe with some of the way the characters portrayed early on, she's seen some stuff. But her and Ichigo, Patrol Red, went through the academy together. So they're contemporaries. So we know that they are the established team and Green is the rookie on the team. Beyond that, we haven't gotten much into it. Visually, I do like a lot of the show. I can't sit here and say I like all of it. I like a lot of it. The costumes themselves are pretty darn cool for both the Lupinrangers and the Patrangers. The reason I said earlier, they're very, very similar and more similar than you might think. The visor motif for both teams are hats. For the Lupinrangers, it's top hats. For the Patrangers, it's police caps. But it's still hats. That's the motif between the two. And their actual outfits are both formal wear. If you look at the Lupinranger outfit, it mimics a tuxedo with a cape. So if you think the tuxedo, the cape, the top hat, and that type of formal wear, that's what it's supposed to mimic, complete with a bow tie. Whereas if you go over to the Patrangers, it is effectively a police dress uniform. The tie, the jacket, the pants, that's not what you see a policeman wear every single day. That's sort of the dress blues, with the big formal cap. Wagon wheel cap, as you might hear called if you've ever talked to anyone in the military. So you have that formal wear motif that goes through both teams. Thieves are universally considered bad guys, and police are universally considered good guys in the majority of dramatic stories. So the good guys wear white and the bad guys wear black. And so that's the secondary color for the costumes. For the cops, it's white, and for the thieves, it's black. There is a very common motif through both sets of costumes, which I like. The police do have the badge and things like that on, which makes perfect sense. They all have the same belt buckle, which I don't know if anyone noticed. When we watched it today, I actually watched it with Josh from Chopsaki Cinema. He had to leave before we were shooting, but there's the same belt buckle on both costumes. So there's a lot shared between the outfits, and I appreciate that. It shows that their powers come from the same place because the costumes are sort of from the same family, and I really really dig that. The props themselves, the versus changers or the VS changers, look a little big and cumbersome for my taste. I'm not a huge fan of put the miniature mecha on the thing to change. That seems a little much to me. But every show needs a collectible gimmick these days, and that is obviously this one. Toys! Then you have the monsters, the Gangler themselves. The Gangler are pretty unique in design. I like the safe motif. It makes them different than most monsters in these shows. I do not like the Gumps. I really, really do not like the Gump design in this show. It looks very haphazard to me. They all wear berets, which is a nod, obviously, to the French origins of Arsène Lupin. But yeah, I could do without that Gump design. I wish the foot soldiers looked a little different. Then the world itself, I will give them credit for this in a genre, meaning tokusatsu hero shows, that have a tendency to reuse locations over and over and over again. At least in the first 4 episodes, they've done a pretty good job of using some not often abused locations. The opening fight scene in number 1 is in a casino, for crying out loud. We're not necessarily in the stock Toku warehouse. We're outside of it at one point. We have a Sentai cafe for the first time in a long time, where the heroes work at the cafe. That's nice. That was actually pretty cool. I dug that. The police station looks like a police station. Their buddy robot, Jim Carter, who I don't understand why the robot's name is Jim Carter, to be honest with you, but the robot is goofy as hell. But the police station looks like a police station, so I'm cool with that. They do some location outdoors, like fighting in the woods in a forest, which is pretty cool, especially considering that the two teams both have a sidearm morpher or changer, and so there's a lot of gunplay in the early episodes. There's as much gunplay as there are physical attacks. Which I guess is to be expected from a Cops and Robbers themed show. The mecha in the show, oh good lord, leave much to be desired, in my opinion. The first several times we see the mecha, and especially in episodes 1 and 2, they are almost entirely done in CG. And this does not always bother me if the CG is good. This CG is not good. It's not. It really is not. The CG designs for the mecha, especially when they're individual, look. The term that immediately jumps to my mind, which is wrong, is amateurish. But that's not the right term. They look childish. I get that it's a kid show, and I get that you skew this toward a younger audience. But with the theme that you have here, which is cops and robbers, and the story as they're establishing it, the mecha look skewed younger than the story's demographic would make you think. And they just look too toyetic. There's a way to use CG to make these things look good. If we backtrack 7 years to Gokaiger used CG for Gokaio when they needed to, and it worked. Even going back to DenziNow, where they would use it for DenziNow Robo when needed, and it would work. But here, just the individual mecha, it does not look good. The combined forms of the mecha, which are Lupinranger and Patranger respectively, when they're CG, they're not as visually jarring to me as the individual mecha, but they're still not good. The flip side of that is that the physical costumes, when they switch to the physical mecha giant robot costume, the costumes are really good. Which to me is so much more the pity that the physical prop looks incredible, and the CG version that you use for certain action scenes looks like garbage by comparison. It's that jarring to me, and it could very easily be just me. I'm not a CG snob, but there's that heavy of a disconnect between them to me. With that said, the actual gimmick for the mecha, I do like the idea. This show, it feels like it wants it both ways, that it wants to be really, really kiddie in some places and really, really serious in others. And Good Striker, which is effectively the seventh member of our combined group here, is part of the Lupin collection itself, but it's sentient. It is the mecha that serves as the centerpiece of both Kaisers, Lupin and Pat Kaiser, with each individual team's 3 individual mecha serving as the arms, legs, what have you, to make the Kaiser mecha with Good Striker. And Good Striker is a whimsical thing. The design of it is not bad. There's a little hand puppet that pokes up through things and talks in the cockpit that I could do without. The voice is, I think the voice is as far as the joke needed to go. The conductor puppet worked in Tokyuger, but that's because Tokyuger was what it was, and it was a really cool show, and I enjoyed it, but the puppet worked there because of the way it was presented and handled. Here it felt like something they just tacked on. So that I could do without. But that said, the Kaisers, I like the idea that there can only be one giant robot at a time because there's only one unifying piece. So that intrigues me. And I can see that as a storytelling element later, where at some point they're going to have to use part of one team's mecha and part of the other team's mecha with Good Striker because somebody's hurt or damaged or what have you, and force the teams to work together. That appeals to me as a storytelling device. Ancillary characters and whatnot. The butler, I get the sense there's way more to this guy than we're getting told. With the director of the tactical unit, who is Director Hilltop, is the character's name. Played by, I will have his name for next time. I know his first name is Ike. But he's actually a native of Seattle, Washington. If I'm not mistaken, he's a native of Seattle, Washington, either was raised or lived in Manhattan. So between Seattle, Washington and Manhattan, New York. Before becoming a successful comedian in Japan. But he is presented here not for laughs. He's presented here just as the director. Yeah, he is sort of the light-hearted cop commander character, which is a trope in Super Sentai and even Kamen Rider. It reminds me a little bit of the chief in Kamen Rider Drive. But if I know anything about that archetype, it is that they will turn it on a dime and have that character become very serious at some point. And I kind of hope that's what we get at some point with the director, where he's going to give the stirring speech or what have you. So much of that, there's a lot of good and bad here. The one thing that I cannot complain about in any way, shape, form, or fashion is the music. The music for this show I love. It's themed pretty well to each team. If the Lupinranger insert songs, frankly, sound like Lupin the Third. And they really probably should. Because that's the archetype and you've called it Lupinranger, for crying out loud. So that comparison's going to get made. And there is that vibe and feel to it that's almost this jazzy feel, and I like that. Whereas the cops are more of a harder, driven sounding music. And there are songs, including the opening theme, that mesh those two together really well to serve as a unifying theme between the two teams. The opening theme is really interesting in that there's actually two sets of vocals going on at the same time. The male vocals in the song are the Lupinranger vocals. The female vocals are the Patranger vocals. And it's essentially two separate theme songs being sung simultaneously. Pretty interesting gimmick, but it works, and it's a really cool theme. I don't know where it would fall on my favorites list of Sentai themes. I'll have to listen to it a few times. But the music is the one place where I have no complaints whatsoever. So, the good and bad out of these, to wrap this one up, because I've been prattling on for a while, that happens when we first kick off a series here on DenziNow or on the Denzi Blitz. The goods and bad, I like the Lupinrangers a lot. The Patrangers really need some fleshing out. To me, the Patrangers are very much tropes at the moment. Specifically, Ichigo and Nigo, our red and our green on that team. They are very much tropes. Almost to the point that if it's not played right, red could become Inspector Zenigata real quick. And I hope that doesn't happen. On the Lupinranger team, we've already gotten motivation, and we've already gotten sort of how they got their powers and why they are what they are. The Lupinrangers, at least from my standpoint after 4 episodes, are the main team of the show. They are the ones driving the story. The Patrangers are almost like supporting cast. I'm really hoping that there's arcs in the story where those roles flip, and the Patrangers drive the story while the Lupinrangers are the secondary story in there. I think they have a very unique opportunity with this setup of the show to let them trade the spotlight until we need the two teams to become one to stop the bad guys in the end. But I think they have that unique opportunity so that you could keep the stories fresh, even if you have to delve into filler territory from time to time. And we all know most of these shows do at some point have to delve into some filler episodes. I do like that they have shown some grudging willingness to work with each other. The Patrangers have shown that while they are going to try to bring down the Lupinrangers, the Ganglers are the bigger threat, because at least the Lupinrangers aren't going after people. As far as they can tell, they're not trying to hurt people, they're just thieves. The Ganglers are killers. So they are taking that priority. And we even have a case in episode 4 where Yellow gives a piece of information to the Patrangers that will help them bring down the bad guy. Whereas at the end of the episode, Pink returns the favor by incapacitating the monster near Lupin Yellow so that she can get the piece of the Lupin collection back before the monster gets destroyed. So there's that. Visually, the show has its ups and downs. I like 95% of what is practical, and I despise 95% of what was CG. The only thing practical that genuinely bothered me is a little bit of the camera work, and they pretty much dropped the element that I didn't like in episode 2, and it became... They think they brought it back a wee bit in episode 4, but I didn't see much of it at all in 3, and if it keeps coming up, I'll mention it later, and I'll talk about it a little more in depth. The costuming and whatnot, I like, but right now, my reservations are, I hope either the CG gets better or they minimize it. I hope that the characters get more fleshed out, specifically the Patrangers. And I hope that they do not become simply, for all intent and purpose, the 4th, 5th, and 6th Rangers, where they are the side characters in the show, rather than being able to trade the spotlight back and forth with the Lupinrangers. I see a lot of potential in the show. and I am going to keep watching it. I'm not to Ninja Steel level yet, where I watched 8 episodes and punched out. So we're going to see what the next set of episodes holds. I want to say as of the time I'm recording this, they're up to episode 12. So I got 8 more episodes to binge watch, which means you're going to see 2 more DenziNow episodes, probably in fairly quick order. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing more of it, and I'm hopeful. Cautious, but hopeful. So folks, that's going to wrap it up for this edition of DenziNow. I want to thank you so very much for watching. Remember, if you want to take part in our giveaway to get a copy of Ultraman Season 1 Part 1 on DVD, then you need to go and check out our Johnny Sacco episodes 19 and 20 review, where it's me and Josh discussing them, and listen to that episode and find out how you can be put in the drawing to win that DVD set. We're going to be doing the drawing the first week of June, is the current plan, and this episode is going to air in May. So we'll do that in the first week of June, so definitely go and check that out. If you haven't already subscribed to us, there's a little red button down there that says subscribe. Please hit that button. If you liked the episode, give us a thumbs up. If you didn't like the episode, give us a thumbs down. Plus, let me know what you think of Lupinranger versus Patranger in the comments below, because we love hearing back from you guys, and a lot of times those comments wind up on the air. We loved it to get those comments and feedback and discuss, not just with the folks on the various shows, but with you. If you want to interact with us a little bit or leave us some notes, you can do that either by leaving them in the comments or jump over to our Facebook page, facebook.com/DenziCaster. You can type stuff there and let us know. And if you want to help us out here on the channel with new cameras, new mics, new equipment, all kinds of new stuff, anything that we make here goes into the channel. Doesn't line anybody's pockets, because we all have jobs outside of this. That's why videos sometimes get delayed. But you can go over to our store at cafepress.com/Geek Carolina, and you can pick yourself up a cool t-shirt, kind of like the Space Sheriff Scheider /Gavin/Sharvan inspired DenziCaster shirt I have on. But you'll also find stuff over there like our #Sincere Shaolin Fist shirt, inspired by Kamen Rider Super 1, or we have our Big G style shirt inspired by Godzilla, or any number of other shirts over there on our page. We've got some new ones coming out. I think our Johnny Sacco shirt is already up, and we also have a shirt coming out inspired by Kamen Rider Drive. Or not Drive, we already have a Drive shirt over there, inspired by Kamen Rider Build. So be over there and check that out. We'd greatly appreciate it. So folks, until next time, I'm Mike, and we'll see you on more DenziNow.